Well, Murphy's playing his games with us today. Every time we pull out the camera to shoot, it pours, and every time we put it away, the sun shines. But we've just about managed to cheat him for a bit and get a bit of a dry spell. And we're here to talk about how Tata have been consistently putting out good products of late. And their Nexon has really impressed us because it's so true to the concept. And it looked like it just rolled out of Auto Expo and straight into the showroom. Well, when we did our first review, we felt that it was not only the way it looked, but it had the true potential to shake up the competition. So now that we have our hands on this car, of course, we're going to put it back to back with the competition.
And its natural competitors are the Brezza and the EcoSport. Now, the EcoSport should really be a part of this test. But with the new version that will have new engines due in just about a month, we thought we could do another comparison at that time with the winner of this shootout.
Now, with the Brezza only having a diesel offering, it is the duel of the diesels. Let's get right to it. Let's begin with the looks.
The Nexon looks radical and eye-catching. It's got the beef and the ground clearance to play the part of a compact SUV, and yet the coupe-like roofline and the white ceramic-looking plastic highlights really differentiate it and make it quite stylish. The Brezza, on the other hand, has textbook SUV design. It has the stance, the upright manner, the right proportions, and it has its fair share of flair with the contrast roof and body panels. It is a decent looking car on its own, but in this comparison, it really looks boxy standing beside the Nexon.
Well, that was on the outside, but on the inside too, the Brezza does the job of a compact SUV quite well. With the more upright rake of the windscreen, the A-pillar, the large window area and the higher seating, it definitely gives you that commanding feeling in the feel of an SUV from behind the wheel.
The Nexon has the lower seating, but the large seats are better cushioned and more comfortable as well. Visibility is still good and you do get enough of a commanding feeling from behind the wheel. But compared to the Brezza, it does feel more car-like. In terms of practicality, both offer bottle holders on the four doors, cup holders in the rear armrest. The Brezza has two glove boxes and the Nexon has one large one with a removable tray for tablets. Both offer center storage under the armrest and the vicinity of the gearbox, but the Nexon's area is too deep and narrow. It's not the best place to keep your phones either. The shutter for the opening, though, is something you'd expect from a Jaguar. Maybe the big dial for the drive modes could have been positioned elsewhere to make room for a mobile phone holder. Of course, there are the aux, USB and 12-volt power sockets on both. And the Nexon has an additional umbrella holder which channels water to flow out, but only fixed sizes of umbrellas fit. Let's also take a look at the features and see how they stack up.
Now, when we're talking about compact SUVs, space is also important. So let's take a closer look at the boots and which one is better to pack in more.
The Nexon has the larger 350-litre boot, and though the Brezza has a smaller 328-litre capacity, it is better shaped and has a marginally wider opening.
Now, the back seat of the Nexon does feel more comfortable for quite a few reasons. It's got the better cushioned seats, it's got better under-thigh support, it's got marginally more legroom, ample headroom. However, there are some things to note. The way the contouring of the seats is done, it's specifically done for two passengers. Still, you can fit the third passenger in and he will be comfortable enough with enough legroom over here. You do sit lower than the Brezza as well, and the window line is a bit high. Still, it's open, it's airy, there's enough glass area and you never feel hemmed in. Overall, it's a very comfortable place to be.
The Brezza has the flatter bench which is better suited to three, but the armrest does intrude a bit more, so the third passenger will feel that. The bench is a little firmer too. The seating position though is higher, so visibility is good. However, it still has enough headroom. Legroom is good enough, but it is a little less than the Nexon. The Brezza has the 1.3-litre 90 HP engine that produces 200 Nm. And the Nexon is powered by the 1.5-litre 110 HP producing 260 Nm. The Nexon is heavier but has the number advantage in terms of power. It has more power, more torque, and so despite the additional weight, it has the better power to weight ratio.
It's got a nice linear power delivery, and that makes it really good in city driving conditions because you don't have to work the gears much at all. You know, every time you have to slow down and pick up the pace again, all you have to do is put your foot down, and even from as low as 1000 RPM in third gear, it will just pick up and get a move on again.
When you do pick up the pace, the Nexon gets up to speeds quite efficiently too. But it takes time to get to the red line, and you do miss the punch, especially out on a highway when you need to make an overtake. However, drive easy, shift before the red line, and the Nexon does really well.
Now the Nexon does have different drive modes, and economy is the one that you use when you want to save on fuel. But the thing to note is that at low RPMs, economy does make this a little hesitant and jerky to drive.
City drive mode is activated.
Switching it to city does give you that little bit more. But the best mode really is
Sport drive mode is activated.
in sport, where the engine does feel like it's breathing a little bit easier, it gets a little bit livelier, and you get the best of the power. And as you heard, the drive mode does have voice prompts too, so all you have to do is use the rotary dial. You don't really have to take your eyes off the road. It tells you exactly which mode you're in. Now when you start off from the word go, the Brezza's engine does feel quite lively in a constant acceleration. But when you have variable speeds and you have to slow down and then get a move on and you have to keep changing your pace, that's when the Brezza just doesn't do too well, especially in traffic conditions. Every time you slow down, you have to shift the gear down to get a move on again. And when you do use that gearbox, you realize that this gearbox is the notchier of the two, and you have to have a little bit of a heavier hand to use it.
Once you do get some open road and you get past the 2000 RPM mark, the Brezza delivers strongly and it revs much higher too, and freely, so it feels strong. Basically, the Nexon performs better in city conditions and the Brezza when you're at higher speeds out on a highway.
Now, as far as refinement goes, you do know that there is a diesel under the hood of the Nexon. You can hear it as well. But it is definitely the more refined car in all senses. Cabin is more hushed. It shuts out outside sounds, road noises, suspension sounds and engine noises much better. And that adds to that premium feel. It just feels like a bigger car.
The Nexon also turns in really well, and although there is roll, it doesn't take away from the experience. The fat tires are grippy, and on the whole, the Nexon gives you a very safe and secure feel. The Brezza, on the other hand, does corner a bit flatter and turns in reasonably well, but it just doesn't feel as good as the Nexon in this comparison.
Now, the Brezza's steering just doesn't quite offer the feedback that the Nexon gives you. It doesn't weigh up quite as well. And even when you're at straight line high speeds, it does have quite a lot of slack at center, which just doesn't give you the confident, solid feel that the Nexon has.
The Nexon, however, steals the show as far as ride quality goes. On its own, the Brezza is really not a bad ride, cushioning you well from the roads. But when you sit in the Nexon after it, the difference is noticeable. It just cushions every shock better and handles the bad roads really well, and its suspension works more silently too. Overall, it is the better ride. Now, we've given you all the pluses and minuses quite clearly on both cars, but there is one more important factor: price and fuel economy. Let's address the fuel economy first. At this point, the Nexon's price is unavailable, but we do expect some competitive pricing from Tata.
Well, the Brezza does tick all the right boxes. It is engineered for the Indian buyer. It's a spacious, practical and well-equipped compact SUV. And despite the smaller engine, it does perform well too. Of course, it has that strength of brand Maruti behind it, which makes it a very sensible buy. However, it does have its issues. It's a bit irritating to drive in city traffic. It is the noisier of the two, and the interiors do fall bland in this comparison. Well, coming to the Tata, the brand may not give you that peace of mind that comes with Maruti, and the Nexon does have its issues as well. The engine is not quite as punchy as we would like, and it's a bit hesitant sometimes. And the fit and finish overall could have done with a bit more of finesse. However, standing in this comparison, there is no doubt that this is the car that has more emotional appeal. It is the one that draws you in far more with its snazzy looks, its premium feel interiors. And it's not just about the way it looks inside and outside, it is practical too. It's got a spacious cabin, it comes well equipped, the engine really great to drive in the city and performs adequately out on the highway, and the ride and handling is definitely better than the Brezza. And we expect Tata to price this aggressively. Well, the Nexon has won us over and is the winner in this battle.